Every year, college athletes flock to Indianapolis to take part in the NFL Combine. It's a circus of sorts, where NFL hopefuls compete to see who can run the fastest, jump the highest, lift the most weight, all with the intent to increase their draft status and hopefully convince a team to draft them higher than they probably should. Players train specifically for these events, trying to marginally increase their performance. These minute optimizations can be the difference between generational wealth and less generational wealth. Once in a while, we see a player dominate a single event. Less often do we see a player dominate multiple events, and even less often has a player dominated all 6 main physical events. But it's happened, so let's talk about them. How can we classify a dominant combine performance? Well, there's not a single way to do this, but here's my attempt. First, we take all 7,766 combine performances since 1999 and group them by position. Then, we retrieve each player's results for the 6 main physical events: the 40-yard dash, vertical jump, broad jump, 3-cone drill, 20-yard shuttle, and bench press. As an example, here's Deebo Samuel's combine numbers for those 6 events. We then find what rank Samuel achieved in each event compared to all other wide receivers and calculate the percentile in which he finished. Take the average of those 6 percentiles, and you're left with a score representative of how dominant the player was at the combine. Essentially, it's the average percentile of a player's combine results relative to their positional group. Players will sometimes opt out of events that they know they may not perform well in, or don't think is relevant to show to draft scouts. These players have been excluded from consideration. You have to have completed all 6 main physical events to qualify. Yes, this does lead to great combine performances like Anthony Richardson's to be left out, but hey, I don't make the rules. With the dominance methodology established, here's every combine participant's dominance score by year. There is a bias against older combine performances because the players during that era generally didn't complete all 6 events. From 1999 to 2005, only 4 players did. Participating in all 6 events started gaining traction in around 2010, and the golden years of the NFL Combine were the mid-2010s, where in 3 consecutive years, the 3rd, 2nd, and most dominant NFL Combine performances took place. Let's first take a look at the bronze place finisher.
That's Lane Johnson. He runs like an athletic tight end. I'm not even saying like a tight end. He runs like an athletic tight end.
Coming out of college, Lane Johnson was a highly sought-after offensive tackle who scouts claimed possessed ideal athleticism in addition to a 6'6", 303-pound frame. His performance at the 2013 Combine solidified what people already knew about him. But most people didn't expect just how freakishly athletic Johnson's Combine results would be. One of the few people who did predict Lane Johnson's Combine results was Lane Johnson. During a meal with his agent on the day of the Combine, Johnson said, "I'm going to rip this fucking Combine to such a level that these motherfuckers have never seen anything like it. And when it's all said and done, I'm gonna go top 5. And he was spot on. These motherfuckers had never seen anything like it. Johnson finished the 6 events ranked 2nd, 4th, 4th again, 14th, 41st, and 81st on the all-time lists among offensive tackles. Even on the bench press and shuttle, his 2 worst events, he ranked in the 74th and 89th percentiles, which is still pretty great. But his dominance was on full display in the other 4 events. His 4.72 40-yard dash is 2nd all-time among offensive tackles, 1/100th behind first place, and it ties him with wide receivers Anquan Bolden and Jawan Jennings, despite both of these guys weighing nearly 90 pounds less than Johnson. And his 118-inch broad jump broke Tony Ugo's record that had stood since 2007. Johnson's record jump wouldn't be beaten until 2018. If you pair that 118-inch broad jump with his 34-inch vertical and 7.31 second 3-cone drill, we find that he's got a profile that's closer to the average running back than to the average offensive lineman. It's been over 10 years since Johnson competed at the Combine. Hundreds of other offensive tackles with access to better training, nutrition, and sports science have had their results tracked. Despite the influx of competitors, 4 of Johnson's 6 events remain in at least the 96th percentile, with 2 of them in the 99th percentile. When it was all said and done, Johnson did end up going top 5. He called a shot, and he delivered, posting the 3rd most dominant combine performance. But the year after Johnson's 92.85, someone beat it. Someone with a slightly different frame than Johnson's.
And off to the races. McKinnon will be caught and knocked to the ground at the 9-yard line. But the first play of the second half is good for 66 yards.
Unlike Johnson, Jerick McKinnon didn't have much attention from NFL scouts when he came out of Georgia Southern in 2014. Mock drafts prior to the combine had McKinnon going either very late in the draft or completely undrafted. After his 2014 combine performance, he shot up draft boards. In the 20-yard shuttle, McKinnon posted a time of 4.12, which was 4th among running backs that year, and slotted him in the 84th percentile all-time. Pretty decent. This was his worst finish among the 6 events. The only other event that he finished below the 90th percentile was his 6.83 second 3-cone drill. But McKinnon was fast. His 4.41 40-yard dash was 2nd among running backs that year, and in the 90th percentile all-time. And while McKinnon performed well in these 3 events, the last 3 are where he really separated himself from the pack, starting with a vertical leap of 40.5 inches and a broad jump of 132 inches, which placed him in the 96th and 98th percentiles respectively. Going into the final event, McKinnon's dominant score was sitting at a 91.92. Through those 5 events, his dominant score ranked only 23rd. He was on the outside looking in, and needed a big score on the bench press if he wanted to crack the top 3. But the bench press is an event especially challenging for running backs. It's hard to be both fast and strong. And given the importance scouts place on the 40-yard dash, running backs usually prioritize speed and agility over strength. In fact, if we look at the top 250 bench press scores all time at the combine by weight of the player, we see that the most successful bench pressers often weigh over 300 pounds, and 249 of the 250 weigh more than 225 pounds. There's one person outside of that range, because at the 2014 combine, at a body weight of 209 pounds, Jerick McKinnon put up 32 reps on the bench press. Only one running back has ever had more bench press reps than McKinnon. Alex Barnes had 34 reps in the 2019 combine, but he weighed 226 pounds and was significantly slower, ranking in just the 40th percentile in the 40-yard dash. While a running back like Barnes prioritized strength over speed, McKinnon prioritized strength and speed. He finished in the 99.8th percentile in the bench press and vaulted his way into the 2nd most dominant combine performance of all time, which led the Minnesota Vikings to take a chance on him and draft him in the 3rd round, after which Hall of Fame running back Adrian Peterson had this to say about McKinnon. He's probably the best athlete on the team. You don't think he can bench more than 400 pounds, but he does. You don't think he can squat over 500? He does. He keeps me on top of my game, I'll tell you that. Pretty high praise for a guy who was only the 112th ranked recruit coming out of the state of Georgia back in 2010. And it just so happens that the man with the most dominant NFL combine performance was also in that same 2010 Georgia high school class.
Hit and sacked. Blind side coming at him was Vic Beasley.
After a successful 4 years of college at Clemson where he set the school's career sack record, Vic Beasley went into the 2015 combine with high expectations. Scouts called Beasley one of the best pure edge rushers, with the speed and strength to become an absolute menace in the NFL. Beasley confirmed this sentiment with his combine performance. He showed no weakness in any of the 6 events. With Johnson and McKinnon, there were 1 or 2 events where their dominance wavered, but not Beasley. In each event, he was in at least the 90th percentile, and he finished top 10 all-time in 4 of the 6 events, ranking 7th in the 40-yard dash, 2nd in the vertical jump, 4th in the broad jump, and 7th in the bench press. Of the entire field's 7,766 combine performances, 1,531 of them ran a 40-yard dash of 4.53 or better. 105 of those players also had a 41-inch vertical jump. 50 of those players also had a 130-inch broad jump, 39 of those players also ran a 6.91 shuttle, 30 of those players also ran a 4.15 three-cone drill, and one of those players also had 35 bench press reps. That one player is Vic Beasley. He ended up with a 96.7 dominant score, and his combine performance made headlines across media outlets. Beasley was considered a first-round prospect. He leapt into top 10 consideration, and the Atlanta Falcons took him with the 8th overall pick. Unfortunately, it's long been said that good combine scores don't translate to good NFL players. There's a reason why the NFL Combine is sometimes referred to as the Underwear Olympics. Often, the most dominant players of the NFL Combine aren't necessarily the most dominant players in the NFL. This analysis supports that claim. From 1999 to 2023, the first round of NFL drafts produced an average of 12.6 Pro Bowlers. The top 31 most dominant combine performances produced a total of 8 Pro Bowlers, which makes for a pretty weak theoretical draft class. In fact, some of the least dominant combine performances produced some of the better players. Dalvin Cook, Antonio Brown, Zadarius Smith, and Jordan Poyer all ranked in the bottom quarter of dominant combine performances, yet they've all carved out pretty successful NFL careers. So does the NFL Combine truly matter? Probably not as much as the hype surrounding it makes it out to be. But we can take it at face value.
He needed to be 1.6 or better.